I'm wondering if you each had a single thing that you would do to improve the process, what would it be? The single one that you had to choose. Bob?
Well, I suppose the hardest one is the indirect initiative because the voters don't trust the legislature to do the right thing. And every time we poll it, it doesn't poll very well because of the mistrust of the legislature. The easiest one is the one that Joel says won't do that much, but that is to add the page to the ballot pamphlet with the pros and cons, with the people who are supporting and opposing, because we think the voters really want to get cues, and that's a good shortcut for the voters.
Peter, what would you do?
I mean, what I'd like or what can be done? What I'd like is to eliminate it, period. Just get rid of it. And I mean, half the states in this country don't have the initiative process, and nobody can tell me that they are not governed as well as California.
Justice Moreno?
I would say a word limit in simple, plain English.
And Joel, Mr. Fox?
May I respond to Peter first? You know, there are two electorates in California. One that, and this is not my theory, it's
Bruce Kane's.
John Matsusaka at USC and Bruce Kane up at Berkeley and Eugene Volokh over at the UCLA have all said the same thing. There are two electorates in California. One that elects your representatives and one that votes directly on measures in the ballot. And you'll notice that they don't always match up. In fact, frequently they don't match up. You will elect an elected body that would never take the position that the voters as a whole would take on ballot measures, and we can name a whole slew of them. So I think that outlet of the initiative process is important, Peter, and you and I have talked about this for about 30 years, so I don't think we've ever changed each other.
We can do this by numbers.
How about your...
Well, I think the only thing we agree on, believe it or not, out here in Los Angeles, we're both Red Sox fans. The thing I would change, a little interestingly, I think, I would take the power of the title and summary away from the Attorney General, which is a partisan office, and give it to like the legislative analyst or another office like that to write the title and summary, because the title and summaries often end up in Justice Moreno's court, or actually not his court, but the Superior Court in Sacramento. Because there's always political arguments over that title and summary, because often voters just look at those and determine how they're going to vote on measures. So it's a very important piece of how people will determine how they're going to vote. And this is not against Attorney General Harris, nor was it against Attorney General Lundgren or any of them, but it's a partisan office. And I believe that power should be taken away from the Attorney General.
Can I just supplement that with one thing? The legislature right now writes the title and summary for the bills it puts on the ballot. Not only do they write the title and summary themselves, they also pick the proponents and opponents who write the arguments. And so there was one time in 2000 where the League of Women Voters went to the legislature and said, we're against this proposition, please let us write the argument against it. And they said no. And then they went to the person who was appointed to write the argument against it and said, please put us in your argument that we're opposed to this ballot proposition. No. And they wrote an argument against it. There was a phony argument against it, and the voters actually, in this case, were fooled into passing it. So that's the one supplement I would make, is that
I think
legislature should...
Wasn't there a recent lawsuit that will now prohibit the legislature from writing their own titles?
I believe that's the case.
True, yeah.
So we may see improvement in the
They're not picking the
coming
supporters
years.
and